Hi everybody, welcome back. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. First of all, I just want to apologise for the slight change in background. This is the second time that I've actually tried to film this video. The first time I was in my usual position, which is just over there at the other side of the camera, and I was happily filming away without pressing the record button. So obviously that was a sad moment when I came to edit and I couldn't find the footage. So I'm doing this again for the second time, and I'm going to take you through an easy violin tutorial of When We Were Young by Adele. Now, if you want to see the violin performance of this, I'll have an annotation or something coming up here. There'll also be a link to that in the description underneath, along with some other Adele videos and things. I've also done an easy piano tutorial on this. That will also be linked. Everything will always be linked underneath in the video. If you want to know where to get the free sheet music that I've done for you all, again, that will be linked underneath this video. So if you want to know how to play When We Were Young by Adele on the violin, then grab your copy of the sheet music and let's get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do as usual is just take you through what I've done on the music. And as you can see that all the notes have finger numbers above them. Obviously I've not put in any repeated fingers because that just uses up space and just becomes very messy. So all of the notes will have finger numbers above them, and the letters indicate what string you're going to be on. So first of all, you're going to be playing finger 1 on the D string, 1 on the D, 1 on the D, 1 on the D, an open D, open D, open D, 2 on G, 3 also on G, keep going, 2 on G. So you're on the G string until it tells you to change to another string. And that's going to happen all the way throughout. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly take you through, let me just zoom you out a little bit. I'm just going to take you through how the music, or where the music sort of goes to and from. And it's very easy. If I can just get you in focus. So we're going to obviously start from the beginning. You've got a 4-beat rest at the start where you've got the chords that come in, and basically you're going to play it all the way through until you get to measure 32, which is just down here. And then you can see you've got a repeat sign there, and what you're going to do is just repeat it all the way from the beginning of the 3rd line and play that all again. Okay, then when you get to here, what you're going to do then is, we don't want to play the first time bar because we've just played that on the first time around, but what you're going to do is skip all of that and jump over to here where you've got a 2nd finger on the D here where it starts the 2nd time bar, and then you're going to play it all the way to the end. There is another page of this, and I believe that basically once you get there you just play this page all the way through and then you're done. So getting back to the music, so what the first finger you need to put down is a 1 on the D string. Now what you have to remember with this is that it's going to be back. It's going to be back as far as you can get it. So not just a little bit back, but all the way far back until you can feel that ridge. So that's going to be all the way back. Your 2nd fingers as well. If your 1st finger was on the dot, your 2nd finger is going to be right next door to the dot. So I don't have any dots in this violin at the moment, but my 1st finger is where your dot would be on the violin, and your 2nd finger jams in right next to it. So if you've got markers or dots on your violin, you just need to know that you're going to put your 2nd finger right next to the 1st finger. The 3rd finger just goes on the dot as it normally would, so that's fine. I mean, that's pretty much it with the main kind of fingering. I don't actually think it changes anywhere through, but the one thing you have to remember is that the 1st fingers on the D string and the A string are both going to be back. If they're not, it's going to end in disaster. So they both got to make sure that you're almost kind of touching that ridge a little bit. When you've got the 2nd fingers down pretty much everywhere, they're going to be always next to the 1st finger. So not sort of apart, jammed in right next to or just above the 1st finger dot. The 3rd fingers are always going to be as normal pretty much. I don't think we've got anything on the A string. Yeah, so the 3rd fingers are just going to be on the dot as normal, and 4th fingers for A. Remember, there's no open A's in this piece. Don't do open A's or it's going to sound hideous. They've got to be finger 4s. Now what you're going to do is put them on the A string. Sorry, you're going to put them on the D string, and they're going to be jammed in right next to that 3rd finger. So imagine I've got a 3rd finger dot here, my 3rd finger's on that dot. Your 4th finger is going to be jammed in, not just a little bit, but it's going to be jammed in. And when I mean sort of jammed in, it's kind of pushing the other finger out the way. That's the only true way that you know your notes are going to be perfectly in tune. Other than that, it's just guesswork, and with the violin being completely fretless, we don't want to be doing any guesswork. With the violin, remember, everything is precise, everything has its place. That's the idea of classical music. It's not just a bit of this and a bit of that. Everything has its correct position, and we need to make life as easy as possible. So, you know, when I always say things like it's crushed in, it's right next door, it's going to be right next door. It's going to be crushed in or jammed in and pushing it out of the way, because that's the only way you're going to make your fingers go in the right place. So, I mean, that's kind of the major things with this. Everything else just pretty much repeats with this, I guess. So there you have to put your fourth fingers when it gets to the chorus. So I'm talking at measure or bar 25, where it starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, at the end of the fifth line down with those B flat. So you remember what I was saying about jamming that fourth finger next to the third finger? So if you've got a dot, this is going to be so much easier, because if you've got the dot, unfortunately, we've got the fourth finger coming in before the third finger, so we're not going to have the luxury of being able to put the third finger down and then putting the fourth finger right next door to it. We're going to have to pretty much guess where it is. Now, if you don't have any markings, if you're a beginner and you don't have any markings on your violin, then that's going to be a little bit trickier for you. I know some people don't like the dots, some people do like the dots. I am a fan of the dots, especially when you're a beginner and you're learning. A lot of teachers don't like them because I suppose it makes your ear lazy, and so you can't get used to the sound. But from my point of view is, if you're a complete beginner and you know nothing about music, how are you supposed to train yourself something you don't know? So by having the dots there, it just gives you a guide, and I think personally, if you take them off at the right time, there isn't any problem with them. So I like them. So I'm just assuming that you've got a dot in there. So what you're going to do is just have a look at, you're going to have to kind of partially look at the music and look at the, you know, your fingers on the violin as well. But where you've got that dot, just pop that fourth finger in just slightly above the dot, and when the third finger goes down on the dot, those two should sort of be brushing past each other as you're sort of as you're playing the notes. See, they're touching. And so on. So there is a slightly complicated part there, but there is no other way around it. You could go into a different position, but then we're getting kind of far beyond the realms of beginner, and we're getting into kind of complicated land, and we don't want to go there. So we're just going to keep it like that. You cannot do open A's for this. Please don't ignore those fourth fingers and do open A's, because it's going to sound like this. It's just not going to sound like the song. So if you sound like that, if something's not sounding quite right, that's because you're doing an open A and you're not doing those fourth fingers. So don't ignore those fourth fingers. They're not there for a laugh or because I felt like being mean. They're there because the key signature tells us to, because we've got A flat, and there's no other way of playing an A flat than there on the violin. So moving on to the last line of the first page and going on, you've got a couple of G flats, which otherwise might be known as F sharps. Because of the key, we don't put F sharp, we put it in as G flat, but it's still the same position on the violin. I guess if you were playing an F sharp, it would be right behind the third finger and you play it with the second finger. If you were playing a G flat, you'd play a G as normal and then you'd just flatten it. So it's same position, just if it's G flat, you'd think of playing it with a third finger. If it's F sharp, you'd think of playing it with a second finger. It's a G flat, so we'll just sort of flatten the third finger. So if I just take it from the sort of halfway through the last line on the first page. just have to slightly, you just have to take the finger, the third finger that's on the dot, slightly flatten it. But the good news is you've got a second finger pretty much right after it. So the second and the third are going to be brushing past each other, and they're going to be touching as well. So that is the good news with that. And then kind of a few notes later, you've got a G natural. So quite irritating with Adele going up and down with all this. So you've just got a G natural, so you're back to the normal dot. You're back to the third finger being on the dot in its normal position. I think that's pretty much everything. The rest of it just repeats. I know this is a bit of an awkward key, but there wasn't really any getting away with it. This wasn't the three flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, not actually too difficult, to be perfectly honest. And I didn't want to change it into another key because it just ends up getting more complicated anyway. So if you haven't got G flats, you've got some other hideous note that nobody wants to do. If you haven't got A flats with the fourth finger, we've just got another hideous note again. So it was kind of the lesser of two evils. Plus, this is in exactly the same key as Adele sings it. So if you wanted to play along with Adele singing this from her album, you can totally go and do that. It will all fit in. If you manage to find yourself a backing track or something like that and you want to play along with that, absolutely you can go ahead and do that because it's not in any other key. So that's pretty much it. So just remember, the first finger's back on the D string, first finger's back on the A string, second fingers are going to be close to the first finger on the G string, and you must have those fourth fingers jammed in right next door to the third finger on the D string whenever you've got those A flats. So do not ignore those fourth fingers. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I've got some links underneath this video. I've done some other violin tutorials, piano tutorials, performances and things like that of Adele. So go and check those links out underneath. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.